Morning, folks. Welcome to Shallibodhran, and in this episode, I'm looking at Johnny Ringo McDonagh and his style of playing. It took me a few weeks to give it some honest tries, and just a quick disclaimer, I still haven't quite got it because he plays with this bent wrist method, but it's not a bent wrist method like this. It's a bent wrist method that's cast out. I'll show you in a sec. So to me, that's completely different compared to the straight wrist method I usually play. For this, I'm also using two tippers. One of them is a short scaled double-ended carry, and another one is a longer one to play at the 4/5 grip. So a quick note before we kick off. Johnny uses big drums with heavy skins. In this case, I'm using an 18-inch drum with a medium skin on it. I don't really have a heavy skin, and a friend of mine currently is using my TR head because he wanted to practice with it, and actually it was a little bit easier to do the video using this drum when I was testing the video out. So for the sake of it, I'm just using one with this taped head, but the sound will still more or less be the same. Few characteristics of Johnny's playing is that he keeps things simple. He really, really does keep things very simple. His tuning is usually lower. He doesn't tune very high, so when you're normally tuning a drum, you kind of tune it and then you feel that it just slowly catches and you can't tune, and it's normally tuning it to around D. You find that he's not that high. He's tuning it way, way lower, so I have this tuned much, much lower. So I'm going to switch the camera low to give you a better view. So the first thing, I'm going to use the long tipper here. The first thing I've noticed when Johnny plays is that his hands are not, the sticking hand is not straight up like this, how I would normally play. And then if I were to triple off the top, I would bend the wrist in. He doesn't do that. He actually takes a more relaxed wrist, and instead of the torsion of my arm and the arm muscles and the wrist doing the work, he's actually kind of rocking the wrist back and forth like this when he's playing. And the rocking motion is doing all the control of the stick. So while it is double-ended playing, it's not the same as this. See, bent wrist, straight wrist. And the neat thing about this is when he plays, and it's kind of beautiful for me because it's kind of mesmerizing to watch, is the wrist dancing back and forth, is that it's almost like you're trying to flick the wrist off, like you're shooing something away. But when it comes back, it just catches where the wrist stops moving and just slides back because of the motion of the stick. So it's like out and then back, out and then back. And if you notice, sometimes his arm will extend and retract a little bit, extend and retract. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And depending on how he's got the beat rolling, he might change things a little bit, but it's pretty much so one thing you want to try is just to stay in one spot like this. Pick the center of the drum. Good place to start. And then slowly try to accent it. So try this. Keep your hand flat on the back and just keep a normal flat head. And try to find the other spots on the drum where the sound changes. Or maybe you want to, there you go, move it a little off center when you're playing. Try to just move things around in this simple 4/4 sort of thing. That sort of idea. Now you're going to combine it with something else. Johnny typically goes from the top and then rolls down. So as he's playing, it's more of a to the bottom. You can see my hand kind of pushing on the back here. Sorry, I'm so used to doing the straight wrist, so just bear with me. On the back, you'll often see him cup from the top. And what he's getting is he's basically taking this little sort of curve architecture part of the hand. And that's doing all the work. It's the same thing as when you're playing top end. But it's down here instead. So it's a bottom end sort of style. So what do we got so far? We have the fact that he likes to bend the wrist and have it sort of dance in and out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. He also likes to map things out by keeping a steady section. He can always return to it and he can play. Like that. And he's often going from the top to the bottom, cupping and sliding. You can see the shadow here. Doesn't do a whole lot of press in and out. Not too much of that, but there is some of it here and there. Let me switch over now. Something I'm a little more comfortable with. The next thing that Johnny does a lot of are finger techniques on the back of the skin. And what he's doing is he's trying to find where those, when the membrane vibrates, creates these little symmetries throughout the entire skin. And when you apply a finger, so this is the open tone. And now the hand at the top, cupped, coming in, flat, right, and then you can start switching it up, doing other things. So, on the back. Like this over the top. This change goes from basically where you cup the hand and you rock it to one side, then rock it over top, and then rock the bottom. And when you experiment, when you're going around doing the finger techniques, I want you to keep 3 things in mind. Number 1 is how much pressure you're applying with any contact into the skin. The second thing is that it's the shape of the hand. The shape of the hand is probably the most important thing, because it fundamentally changes how it all works. And you can hear it. You can hear it kind of go. And basically it's taking this tone, the open tone, and and it's choking some of the frequencies out of it. So you're still getting the same thing. It's not quite harmonics, but it's like harmonics. Basically, it's more along the lines of you have this set of vibrations and you're just isolating some of them, so you get way back I did a video talking about using, let's not use that finger, but my apologies. Using a finger to basically run up the back. And the same thing can happen here. There you go. That sort of thing. The way Johnny's doing it is that he's literally finding interesting geometry with his fingers on the back. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is for the sticking hand way of thinking about things. The sticking hand is important because where you're placing the sticking hand is going to greatly change how you're affecting it. So let's just take sort of this triangular pattern here. We're at center, and let's move it slightly off center. Now I'm going to try striking, and you can see it right here. Right here. I'm going to try striking at the center. Striking above. A little louder. Striking on the my right side of it, so in front of it. Has a little bit of a softer sound. Striking at the back. Very dead. It almost has no resonance. And then striking below. Important things like that. If I just hold this here, we can get a variety of different beats. Switch up to a flat. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. On, below, on, below, on, below, on, below. What I like about Johnny's playing a lot is that he likes to map the skin. And what I mean by mapping the skin is that if he does play with an isolated hand, and it just sits there on the skin, I like how he likes to leave it in sections so that he has literally created an asymmetry all over the skin, which means you basically have, sort of like a drum kit, you have the and try this. I like this a while back before I started looking at Johnny Ringo's stuff, is that you take your hand, and I normally play from the like Johnny sort of in this way, but I normally use the heel of my hand. I want you to take the heel, and so from the top here, I want you to put it somewhere halfway in between the center and the top. So you end up getting normally that bass kick, and then behind it you have sort of a thonk, tonk, tonk. Still has resonance, but it's thonky. So what you end up getting is sort of a okay? You try that out. It's nice because once you actually start playing with it in reels and jigs and whatnot, you can actually get it sort of a thonk, a thonk, a thonk, a thonk sort of sound. And I like doing that. There's one where I'm playing it where I can get sort of a back and forth, and the front hand is moving all around. Well, the hand on the back of the skin is not moving at all, so it's just right up. Or reversing it. So have those options. Lots of options. If you're someone who likes to use bundle tippers and whatnot, it's going to have less an effect because of how bundle tippers work. However, if you like using more of a mallet-ended, these are teardrop shaped because I prefer the teardrop shape, but if you like sort of that round, more like comb vellum or some of the, comb Murphy types, or the long Johnny Ringo ones, which almost have the rounded knobs on the end of it, or they're a little more flattened on the top, those are quite nice. One of the things I find difficult about his playing is the bent wrist thing when you're doing the rim shots, the whole... But there's a benefit to it. Using my straight hand that I normally flip, switching it this way is kind of neat because you're so close and parallel to the skin anyway. It's pretty easy to relax, maybe even easier, I'd say, to relax and then play it back and out, back and out, back and out. So it has a distinctive sort of sound when you're playing it. So basically that is more or less, when I look at Johnny Ringo's stuff, the big three things to take away are, number one, the bent wrist playing. He's casting his hand out and back like that when he's playing. For those of you who play straight wrist, this is really going to aggravate you because you probably went to straight wrist to get away from the bent playing, because we typically think of, bent wrist playing more like this sort of thing. Johnny doesn't do this. Johnny may do that if he's hand playing it, but so do we all. He's more casting it out and back, out and back, out and back. You can kind of see where my wrist is moving from front to back push, front push, back push, front push, back push. And I'm not very good at it, but and then you just use the rest of your arm to control. The second thing is the method of playing in and out with a lot of the bass kicks. That is literally, he comes from the top to the bottom. He's a bottom style player. Then the third thing to take away is mapping the drum using the fingers and hands. That could mean moving the fingers around. Or it could mean isolating it and mapping out according to an asymmetry on the drum. That sort of thing. The last thing to take away, and I probably included it as number 4, but it's more so just good practice, is Johnny Ringo is one of the bodhrán players out there in the world who can basically tell you exactly what piece is being played. He's been around for so long, but he understands the music, and this is something that's really important, especially to anyone who's new to bodhrán playing, is that you need to understand the music. Listening is more important than playing off the start. And trying to play like Johnny requires more listening than playing. Once you got the listening, the rest of you kind of picks it up because a lot of you are already been playing for years. But when you're getting that, how he isolates certain sounds, that takes more listening than singing. More listening than playing, pardon me. The other thing is that he understands the music very intricately. He knows the names of almost all the pieces. He can tell you what's being played. He understands the music very, very, very deeply. And his method of playing, which is very, very simple and very, very effective, also requires very little energy to play, so you don't have to worry about developing really fast single-end techniques, because there are no real fast single-end techniques. They're double-ended techniques. So getting a good tipper that you like for double-ended playing, which is why I have this red one so much, and relaxing even more in this sort of playing, because so much of it has to do with the geometry of the wrist and then the the symmetry on the actual drum. To get Johnny's sort of sound, you need a big drum, and you need a drum with a thick skin or a medium thick skin. This one here is an 18-inch drum. It has a medium skin on it. Johnny has been noted making very good recommendations to Michael Vignol's, Christian Hedvigshak's TR series, any maker who makes custom drums with a thicker sort of head on it. The Shallibodhran drums are really quite outstanding. Good luck trying to find one. But basically, that's from the kit standpoint. Basically, what Johnny uses is basically bigger drums, big diameter drums with a heavier sort of skin on it. Now, yes, I do have a taped drum here, and you will get more percussive playing if you did not have a taped head like this. But because I have this tuned down so low, again, Johnny doesn't play at a high tension. He tunes quite low. And his style being more percussive than tonal, not so much, but more of a that's more his thing. You know, in a way, his playing is so much like dancing because it pretty much is about getting that sort of danced feel to it. And it's probably the easiest stuff in the world to dance to. I think Johnny's playing is very special because, number one, it's old school. But number two, it's probably the easiest thing in the world to dance to because his playing is uncomplicated. And in the case of session playing, it makes him one of the best session players of all time because he is uncomplicated. He knows the music. He doesn't try to put too much into it. And he always makes every single strike on the drums sound good. I guess that's what happens when you've been playing for like 100,000 hours in your life, right? So, you know, kudos to him. So I hope you like the video. It's a longer video. Go out there and try it because this sort of playing, unlike a lot of the more modern stuff, like the John Joe Kelly stuff or the Eamon Murray sort of stuff, you're not so much thinking with that front hand anymore. You're thinking a lot more with the back hand, and you're using drums that aren't so popular anymore. Big drums, session drums, rather than tonal drums. You're looking at size. Size matters. If you're looking at tippers, you're looking at longer tippers, you're looking at the older baller Maladin sort of style tippers. You're not looking at the thin pencil tippers that are so delicate. So give it a shot. It's tough, it's hard work. The hardest thing for me, and I still struggle with this, is the whole bent wrist thing, but I can see where it's very, very useful. Personally, it's not going to be taken into my style of playing, but it's nice to have one more tool and trick for the tool kit. So it's very, very helpful. So thanks for watching. I know I've been meaning to get around this for quite a while, but now I finally got it. I'm going to be uploading this as soon as I can and getting it to you folks. So thanks very much. Thanks for your support. And keep the ideas coming. Have a good one. Bye.